Hi there, this is Kush from creativepadphotography.com. Welcome back to the Photoshop tutorial for beginners video series. We are on part 7 and today we'll be starting to look at something called as adjustment tools or functions, and we'll be looking at one of my favorite tools inside that, which is called as the hue saturation tool. So let's get started. So I'm going to open this image. I've put all 3 images in the description of this video so that you can download them and work along with me. So first image that we're going to be using is this one. Okay, so we have this landscape image with us, and I'm going to show you how you can use a very cool tool to edit this image. Okay, so if you've been following all this series, we have covered some tools in this particular tool section. Right, I did not cover all, so as I told you in the first part, I'm only right now restricting myself to tools that are used often by photographers. And the second point in my the second thing that I have on my mind is that I'm initially only showing you tools that are easy to use for beginners. For example, we did not cover dodge and burn here, and also right now you don't need to know all these. I'm only showing you ones which are easy. Once we go on to the advanced stuff, we'll look at all these other tools. So we've covered these, and now I'm gonna go right here. So first thing, of course, is to just unlock this. Never work on your original. So I'm just going to tell you a shortcut to duplicate your layer. Till now we've been right clicking and clicking on duplicate layer. You can just press Control, or that's Command for Mac, plus J. Okay, so once I do that, you get your copy. Right, so the adjustment tools or functions can be accessed from this little circular icon that you see here. So if I click on this, once my layer is selected, if I click on this, you'll see this little menu pop up, and these are called as adjustment functions. So of course, I'm not going to be going through all of them, only the important ones. So one, and not in any order, so I'm going to just be making these videos randomly, but we'll be covering most of these here. So let's look at, first of all, in this video we'll be looking at this particular tool called as hue saturation, used by photographers a lot, and it's a very cool tool, as you see. So what this tool basically does is you can isolate a particular color and you can work on it. For example, in this image, let's say you don't like this grass, the yellowish looking grass, and you want to turn this grass into something greener like this. Okay, so what you can do is you can just, once this menu pops up, by the way, if you're not seeing anything here, whatever I'm showing you, any of these windows, then what you can do is just go to window here, and you can select whatever you want from this part. So if your layers is disabled, you can just go on and just check the layers part. Second thing I'm just going to do is quickly fit this to screen so that we get a better look. Okay, so this is much better. Now let's do that. So we have our hue saturation window, which will pop up right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select from this menu where it says master. I'm going to select the color that I want to work on. So the color that I want to work on is called of course is yellow in this case. So I'm just going to select yellow, and then I'm going to change the hue of yellow. So just watch what happens when I move the slider. So turn it towards this side, and did you see? So we got a nice looking green glass. I can actually just push this further, and we suddenly turn all this old grass here into brand new grass, right? So, and we did not affect any other part of the image because the yellows were mainly around this image. So let's do something similar with, let's say, if we want to change something with if we want to change the hue of this, and let's say we want to make it of a different color. So what we're going to do is, this is probably something along the lines of red, or let's say we want to change the color of this hut. Okay, so what we can do is we can select red, and then we can just play around with the hue. So you can see, right? So now I know this is not looking too great, but I'm just showing you. So let's say if we just want to, of course, both these areas were affected, and some areas here and some areas here, because those areas had red too, right? So it's going to have an impact everywhere. This is where, once we later on in the videos, once we go on to something called as layer masking, which is this little white thing that you see here, it's a part of that. Right now I'm not covering that. Once we do that, you'll see how easy it is to get rid of this problem and to only keep the isolated effect on the hut. So right now, since we haven't covered layer masking, okay, what I'm going to show you is an alternative to layer masking which you should not use. I'm only showing you this till the time we cover layer masking, okay, but I'm going to show you an alternative way of how we can just correct this situation. So we've got our hue and saturation layer here, which has affected us in this way. So what we can do is we can just go back to our original layer here, and we can just click on create duplicate. That is, we are creating one more duplicate. Again, I repeat, this is not how photographers do it. I'm just showing you because right now you don't know how layer masking works. And what you want to do is, once you have this copy of this layer, you just want to put it on top of the hue and saturation. Just drag it on top. Oops, yeah, like this. So you can see whichever layer is on top, Photoshop is going to show you that. So since we copied the original, this layer copy has come here, and the saturation one, if I just unhide this, is right here. Right? So then all you need to do right now is, if you don't know layer masking, you can just select the eraser tool, and what you can do is just make sure you have selected the top layer, and then what I can do, I can just erase this layer from wherever I did not want this effect to be. Sorry, not this. So we'll be doing it on the hut. So we only want to keep that blue hue effect that we generated from this to the hut, right? So I'm just going to run the eraser. Make sure you decrease the hardness so that you have soft edges, and I'm just going to run it only on the hut here. Right, so that's of course not looking real, but just an example. You can change it to any color that you want. And now what we've done is, if you just look at this thumbnail here, right, you can only see the, we've actually erased this. So what you're seeing behind here is the checkered board or the empty area, right? But underneath that, since we have a hue saturation layer, so you see the effect of that here. So again, the cost of repeating myself, don't make this a habit, because once we learn layer masking, you can learn on your own. We'll be able to do this in a very similar way, but what happens with layer masking is that it's a non-destructive way of doing things. That means if I were to do this with layer masking, I can save this image, open it back, and if I don't like this, I can recover the red back easily. But right now, if we save this image, and if I think later on that this is not good, if I open it back, the eraser function is a destructive tool. So it's already done its job, and you will not be able to recover. So I know some of it might be sounding like Chinese to you, so don't worry about it. Once we do layer masking, you will understand how this works. But right now, just keep your focus on hue and saturation, right? So that's how we were able to get this particular effect, right? Let's look at another image. So this time I want you to open this image with the fruits and vegetables. So just to show you again, in a very, very simple manner, let's say we only want to keep the greens here. So you should be able to do this on your own. So what you do is you go and you select hue saturation, and then what you're going to do is you'll be selecting, so we don't want red, so like we won't want these, whatever things are red, and we're just gonna, so another thing you can do is you can turn down the saturation. So this time we want the other fruits and vegetables to basically turn black and white, apart from the ones that are green. So what we're going to do is we're going to just select their color, the rest of the ones, and we're going to turn their saturation down. This time we won't change the hue. For example, if I change the hue, then you will find all these reds changing into weird colors like this. So you can actually turn all of them into green using the hue, but we're going to just turn the saturation down. So you can work individually also on the saturation, right? So I use this a lot for my landscape shots, because a lot of times when there's a lot of green grass and green trees in my landscape, I just change the hue a bit, because plain green does not really look good on landscape. So what you can do is either you can change the hue a bit, or you can even turn down the saturation of greens. I use it a lot. Okay, so we got rid of our reds. So you can see majority, the color which dominates here is yellow. So I'm just going to turn down the saturation of yellow. So you can see now we're practically left with just the green vegetables here. And this is referred to as selective coloring, right? So of course, this is not a very good shot to show this from. So I'm going to show you one more shot where selective coloring will make much more sense. Okay, so I'm just going to fit this to screen. Okay, so we've got our layer here. I'm going to open. So what we want to achieve here is we want to keep the red color of the car, and we want to turn rest of the colors into black and white. So we're going to go to hue saturation. So we don't want blue, so we're going to go to blue. And can you guess what are we going to do? Which slider are we going to move? We want to turn it into black and white, right? So we're going to reduce the saturation. You can also, by the way, the third slider here is lightness or luminance. So if I do this, you can make it, you can change the amount, you know, how bright it is or what kind of a shade it has. So you can even do this from here. So I'm just going to turn down the saturation, and then I'm going to select greens. We don't want greens. So I'm just going to turn down the saturation here. And now you're still seeing some greens and blues. So those are recognized by Photoshop as cyan, this one here. So I'm going to select this and turn the saturation down. So you can see now it's completely black and white. Right now, the remaining color, we don't want yellow. So let's just remove yellow, even though it's a part of the nameplate, but let's just leave that out. We only want the red, and a bit of yellow has gone from here. Now the remaining color that is there on the top here and here, a bit on these places, is red. Now I cannot do the same thing on red because that's going to affect our car also. So what we're going to do is, just like in the first image, if we knew layer masking, then we would it would be much easier for us, but we're going to learn that later on. So right now what we're going to do is something similar to what we did with the landscape image. So I'm just going to click on duplicate layer here, and I'm just going to move this on top. So we got our original layer back, and underneath that, if I hide this, we have our layer which only has red, right? So I'm going to unhide this again, and working on this layer, what we now need to do is we need to make this entire image black and white. Okay, so that once we erase this on the car, only the red from below will be shown. So how you can turn an image into black and white is very easy. Just go to image, go to adjustments, and you can go to black and white. So this whole image is now black and white. So what we can do now is we can just take our eraser tool and we can simply work on only on the car, so that we reveal the red color from the layer. And I don't have to worry about the edges here. Like, you know, I can easily do this because we've already turned the saturation of other colors down. I'll just have to probably be careful in parts slightly here on this edge because it had a bit of red here. So just be slightly careful here. Right, so you can see we've got our image and a selective colored image in which only red is there. And once we go into the advanced stuff, I'll show you how you can do that, this selective coloring, even in a very, very easy way, where we'll be looking at advanced selections where you can just select according to color and turn the rest of the scene black and white, and it won't affect the selection. But that all will be coming later on. Yeah, so that's about hue and saturation. Give it a go. You can use it for n number of images. For example, I'll give you a few examples. One is a lot of times I use this is in portrait images. So if you have a bouquet behind and it has some flowers or any color in it, sometimes you can just play around with those colors. You can change someone's dress, the color of someone's dress using hue and saturation, and a lot of other things, right? So anytime you feel you need to change a color or do something with a color without affecting the entire image and only isolate the color, that's the time hue and saturation is a great tool to have. Alright, so I hope you like this video. I'll see you in the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Bye for now.